Turn on your inner light show. It's time to stop just surviving, and it's time to begin to thrive. It's time to live happier and healthier. Turn stress into strength. Noted author Debbie Mandel will show you how to move beyond personal doubts and fears and into positive perception to turn on your inner light. Here's your host, Debbie Mandel.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my show. Our guest expert is Julia Ross, M.A., Executive Director of Recovery Systems. She trains health practitioners nationally and abroad and is the author of The Diet Cure. Let's end food cravings and mood swings with nutritional strategies to target the individual imbalance. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you. I'm glad to be with you.
Now, Julia, what differentiates your diet book from all the others?
Well, first of all, the title gives us a clue that I'm trying to cure people of dieting. Low-calorie dieting is one of the primary causes of our current epidemic of excessive weight gain and obesity and all the health consequences that follow. And so it's quite different. It insists that people get enough calories instead of urging them to cut calories, with particular emphasis on protein and saturated fat, as well as, of course, vegetables and other whole foods. But so the real core of the book is to get us back to eating the kinds of foods that we were eating when we didn't have a weight problem, which was before 1970. 1970s was a decade when we started to do low-calorie dieting, and it's also the decade when we began to be phobic about fat, and under-eating fat put us in a position where we weren't getting enough calories, and we made up for it with sugar and starch. The most weight-promoting foods on the planet, and also, as we're learning now, even more and more, perhaps the most addictive substances on the planet.
In addition to being addictive, I have read that sugar can be responsible as a trigger for certain cancers, that sugar knocks out the immune system. And people who are alcoholics have sugar cravings as well. I mean, we're on the road to ruin.
Well, yeah, the sugar is a food for pretty much all cancers, a direct fuel, in addition to knocking out the immune system. So it's really a double whammy there when it comes to cancer. And there's more and more evidence for that. And of course, we know that it's the primary cause of diabetes and all the health problems related to diabetes, heart disease and kidney disease and so forth.
Now, let me ask you this question. Is diet responsible for many people's lack of self-confidence or low self-confidence? I deal with a lot of women, readers, and I do groups, and I feel that somehow there's a lack of self-empowerment, and is that related to dieting in any way?
That's an excellent question. The answer is yes, for two reasons. The most obvious is that as we've lost control of our consumption of these addictive sweets and starches, our weight has gone up, and we're really disfigured for the first time in history by overeating. And so we naturally feel self-conscious because we don't have our own bodies. We're in these disfigured bodies. But the more important and interesting fact that relates to low-calorie dieting, our attempts to return to our normal weight, ideal weight, has to do with the fact that when we do low-calorie dieting, when we cut our calories, one of the first nutrients we lose is the nutrient that the brain uses to make serotonin, which is our natural antidepressant, which also gives us tremendous confidence. In fact, when they test serotonin levels in baboon colonies, for example, they find that the animals with the highest serotonin levels are the head of the pack. They are, full of confidence, and it's contagious. People know that, these are the leaders. Tryptophan is the name of that nutrient, and it is the only nutrient on the planet that we can make serotonin out of, our natural confidence builder, and we cannot diet and have enough tryptophan at the same time. They just don't go together.
That makes sense, and I think that's why a lot of people turn to junk food, because it will give them a boost in serotonin.
It does, a temporary boost of serotonin.
But then you gain weight.
Because at the same time it raises insulin and puts us on the path to diabetes. So the real key to the diet cure in the content of the first chapter is how can we get access to more serotonin and some of the other brain chemicals that control our appetites and our moods.
Without taking, I guess, Prozac.
Yes,
or the
absolutely. No drugs required.
We know how we can get our hands on that. We'll go to a psychiatrist and we'll say, I'm depressed, and here's a prescription for you, because I think many psychiatrists are not using psychoanalysis anymore, but they are psychopharmacologists. So
that's right. They're referring, yes.
We have the medicalization of our nation. So why don't doctors prescribe amino acids? You made such a wonderful case in chapter by chapter for everything that ails you, Julia. I was very impressed with the studies you brought in as well. Why aren't doctors, are they not versed in this, or they don't make money?
Doctors are, they would make money with this because it would actually work, and the word would be out. But they are in a loop, a closed loop with the pharmaceutical reps. And the pharmaceutical reps can't make much money on nutrients compared to what they can make on medications. And so they're selling the doctors the medications. And antidepressants are not nutrients, so they can't actually build up our stores of serotonin, but they can activate what little serotonin we may have to make it seem like more. Unfortunately, there are, any number of side effects that we've become more alerted to over time, and one of them is weight gain. So, on the one hand, we may be less anxious and less negative on an antidepressant, but we may also be gaining unnatural weight.
That's an excellent point and very interesting. Takes us kind of full circle. Well, we're going to commercial break, and we will return with Julia Ross, the author of The Diet Cure.
Now you can take Debbie Mandel home with you. Her book, Turn On Your Inner Light, Fitness for Body, Mind, and Soul, will help you decompress with healthy, positive, concrete solutions. Common life challenges are presented so that you can quickly find the help you need. Emotional tips, original meditations, and a fun and easy-to-follow fitness workout for each mindset. This revolutionary new method will help you rewire mind and body to take back your power. Get it on Amazon.
Are you overwhelmed with the burden of taking care of children, parents, or both? Are you taking care of everyone else except yourself? It's time to change your habits and re-energize. Debbie Mandel gives you an innovative and easy-to-follow program for good health and happiness. In her magical new book, Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, Debbie Mandel shows you step-by-step how to find the optimal balance between giving and receiving, and guides you to exercise and eat right to take care of yourself. What are you waiting for? Read Changing Habits and start training for your life. Life does not need to be a burden. Get Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout on Amazon.
You're listening to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. I'm your host, Debbie Mandel, and I'm speaking with Julia Ross, the author of The Diet Cure. Now, Julia, can I get amino acids from foods, or do I need a supplement?
Well, the reason that the diet cure emphasizes protein is that the only nutrients that the brain can use to make these appetite normalizing and mood optimizing brain chemicals called neurotransmitters, these amino acids are only available in high protein foods. And the truth is that some people, just by increasing their protein and having at least 25 grams 3 times a day, which is the equivalent of 3 eggs or 2 eggs and a piece of sausage, a chicken breast, fish fillet, a small steak, but 3 times a day, which is really the traditional eating pattern of the planet, will restore normal levels of brain chemistry for some people, but other people are so deficient at this point that they really need supplements. And so fortunately, the key supplements that the brain needs, there are 5 of them that might be needed. To create more serotonin, only 1 is needed. Any health food store in New York, most of the drugstores, a lot of the large grocery stores have amino acid supplements. And the book is very clear on just how to decide which supplement to take and how much to take and which one ones you particularly need. There's a chart on page 123 that summarizes everything, and you can take it right to the store and have health food store clerk help you, or you can order online.
Now,
very readily available.
Would I want to get a blood test to find out if I'm deficient? Because might there not be a side effect if I'm taking an amino acid and I don't really need it, that maybe I have a problem to wrestle with and that's why I'm sad or down? I mean,
well, if the problem is really, life circumstances or early trauma where you really do need some counsel, the amino acids just won't work. They typically work in about 24 hours, so you know right away if they're going to help or not. It's not like you have to take them for weeks or months before you can get any benefit. So they're very safe to take, and for people who have pretty serious mood problems, they can be very useful, but for example, if somebody's suicidal, we certainly don't recommend them. We want people to go and get really fast support. But for short of that, it's very worthwhile to take these natural antidepressants, appetite balancers, because they're totally safe and their effects really do kick in within about 24 hours.
Can I take it in conjunction with a serotonin reuptake inhibitor? So let's say that's not working. Well, it's not a walk in the park either. As you said, it could take weeks and months, and some of them don't work, so you have to try various antidepressants. Can I take them together?
So if you're already on an antidepressant, and so many people are now, there's a section in Chapter 9, which is the second chapter on amino acids, that talks about the kinds of short trial, a couple weeks, where you can take them on the same day but not at the same time. They need to be separated. And you can only take them if you're only on one together, if you're only on one antidepressant. I've written a second book called The Mood Cure that has a whole chapter on nutrients and antidepressants that people might be interested in if they're in this jam, but that information is summarized in the Diet Cure's first and ninth chapter too.
Now, if I would go for a physical to the doctor and I bring this up, would my doctor be knowledgeable about it? That's the key. Like, you get a blood test.
No, the doctor wouldn't be knowledgeable. They would typically say, well, it's not going to help, but it's not going to hurt you. And if you're on an antidepressant, they might be cautionary, and that's why we only recommend it for 2 weeks, because we want you to go to the doctor if you're finding that within the 2 weeks trial period where you're taking the amino acids and the medication, that, boy, you really feel much better than on the antidepressant. Then you can go to the doctor and say, could you taper me off this antidepressant? I'd like to see if I get the same or better benefit on the nutrient. So then you have a choice there. But you can do a test. and it's a very easy test. Most of the standard labs do it. It's a plasma amino acid test, and sorry, not an amino acid test, a plasma neurotransmitter test. You just tell your doctor you'd like to get a plasma test for your serotonin levels, and it's easy and inexpensive, and it would give you a very good idea, and the doctor a good idea, whether this was something safe and helpful for you to embark on. But the symptoms of serotonin deficiency are very, very well established from years of research since the 1970s. So we really know a lot about what someone who's on serotonin feels like.
And also, what if generating cortisol and I'm getting depleted? So many women I speak to are so fatigued. Would there be a test for that as well?
Yes, there's a lot of information in the diet about dealing with stress exhaustion by testing your adrenal gland's ability to put out the stress coping hormone, and what to do when you get the results, which are very accurate. The home saliva test that's recommended, and that really restores a lot of strength, stamina, and a good state of mind, but it doesn't turn off the cravings for carbohydrates. That's where the amino acids in the diet cure are so critical, because you can get strength and stress tolerance from cortisol, but it doesn't do much for those cravings. The only way to really turn those off quickly is to restore the levels of the neurotransmitters that generate our appetites, and serotonin is one, endorphin is another, our pleasure-enhancing chemical, and there's also a neurotransmitter called GABA that's very tranquilizing.
Let's hold that.
A lot of people eat for stress, and GABA is so helpful.
Let's just hold that thought for a moment. We're
Sure.
going to commercial break, and we will return with the diet cure.
Dear listeners, I'm excited to tell you about my new book, Addicted to Stress. This is the message you need to hear. Are you addicted to stress? Do you do it all while everyone depends on you? Where's all this pressure coming from? It is coming from inside you. This is why my publisher, John Wiley, asked me to write Addicted to Stress, a woman's 7-step program to reclaim joy and spontaneity in life. This fun-to-read book teaches proven strategies to reclaim your life, silence your inner critic, build a healthy body, and reframe your thoughts to change your life for the better. Dare to be happy without the guilt. Addicted to Stress is easy to get. It's available at Barnes & Noble and other fine bookstores everywhere. You can also buy it at Amazon and other online retailers.
We're back with Julia Ross, author of The Diet Cure. Now, you wrote some interesting things about coconut milk and canola oil. I guess I'm on the C's now in the alphabet. Could you fill us in? What's the deal?
Well, I wanted to educate people about fats, and we've had so much misinformation and so much unnecessary fear of saturated fats in particular, like the fat in coconut oil, which is a vegetable source saturated fat loaded with nutrients and antivirals. It's just a fabulous fat. And to remind people that coconut oil is a traditional food on the planet, as is butter, another saturated fat that's been very unfairly maligned. These fats stabilize our blood sugar and keep us from craving sweets and starches. It's really important to have them in our diets on a regular basis. and they don't tend to set off cravings for excessive consumption, but they do help turn off excessive consumption of the carbs, which are the real problem with weight gain. In fact, there are a number of studies that I cite where the researchers who are comparing different kinds of diets, a low-fat diet and a diet that included saturated fats, said that actually there was more weight loss with the diets that reduced carbohydrates and increased fat consumption.
Now,
So,
when
and
you say butter, you don't mean it deep fried like they're doing in the Midwest with sugar and cinnamon. Did you know that? Did you know that?
Deep frying will destroy any fat, no matter how traditional and how stable. Butter is great, but not deep fried. But sautéed is very stable. I remember how long butter could sit on the table without even being refrigerated and stay, completely healthful and rancidity-free, because it's just the nature of saturated fats to be extremely stable.
Now, if I want to cook vegetables, I'm cooking challenge, but if I want to do a little sautéing, what oil would you recommend that I cook with that won't, destabilize?
Oh, well, if you're just doing a light sauté, then olive oil is great. A lot of people prefer the taste of butter, and butter is terrific too, and some people combine the two, which is a lovely flavor. But in terms of safety, all of the above. Coconut oil, butter. The form of butter that's best for cooking is actually ghee or clarified butter, because there's no protein in it to burn. But all of these oils are just fine.
Some people feel that if you're cooking at a higher temperature, you shouldn't use olive oil, but you should cook with canola. Oh,
well, I'm so glad you brought that up. Olive oil shouldn't be used at very high temperatures for long lengths of time, but the saturated fats hold up very, very well. Canola oil, however, is in a category of fats that we really need to avoid. These are vegetable oils, which are extremely fragile and are really rancid by the time they're bottled. But they're very cheap to make. Soy oil, corn oil, canola oil, and so they're favored by the industry because the profit margin is very high. But and they found out how to deodorize them so that we can't tell from smelling that they're damaged. But we do know that these vegetable oils are extremely fragile, and they're high in a kind of fat, the omega-3 fats, which competes with the omega-3 fats. So if they're omega-6 fats, we really need more of the omega-3s, and the more vegetable oils we take in, the less of the omega-3s we're going to get.
So that's a point well taken, because canola oil has been touted by many as cooking at high temperature and a good oil. Well, this has been a wonderful segment. I urge people to read The Diet Cure and see how that works for you and if it turns up your energy. Thank you so much, Julia.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Affirmation of the week. People who never break anything will never learn to make lasting creations. And now for the latest medical trends. Drinking a cocoa-rich beverage every day may help brain health in older adults, according to a new study in the journal Hypertension. Well, that's another good reason to include chocolate in your diet. I'll drink to that. Consumption of a Mediterranean diet enriched with olive oil, and this is over the period of 2 years, is associated with increased serum osteocalcin concentrations, which, in other words, creates a protective effect on bone, and this is according to the Endocrine Society. With regular monitoring, eye doctors can be the first to spot certain medical conditions like lupus or a higher risk for stroke. In a recent study, non-smokers who visited outdoor restaurants and bars where smoking was allowed had elevated levels of tobacco-related chemicals in the body. A new study by researchers at Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center for the first time has shown that a history of yo-yo dieting does not negatively affect metabolism or the ability to lose weight long term. Hear, hear. That's a great find. Psychotherapy is effective, helps reduce the overall need for health services, and produces long-term health improvements, according to a review of research studies conducted by the American Psychological Association. Unfortunately, psychotherapy is underutilized. Depression was linked with an increased risk of peripheral artery disease in a study of more than 1,000 men and women with heart disease conducted by researchers at the San Francisco VA Medical Center and the University of California. This year, the U.S. has seen the worst outbreak of whooping cough in more than 50 years. It's reached epidemic levels in many states, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said the number of cases reported is already twice as many as last year. With kids getting ready to head back to school, the number of children impacted or killed by this disease could continue to rise if they aren't properly vaccinated. Speak to the pediatrician. It is very important. Well, we come to the close of another show. I have an educational website on stress management, totally free, turnonyourinnerlight.com. And all the radio shows with the guest experts are archived. You just click and you go right into YouTube at turnonyourinnerlight.com. Subscribe to my free newsletter. You will get the latest radio show emailed to you. A fresh new article on stress management, the health tips fully delineated. In fact, those I never get to mention because I have so many on radio at turnonyourinnerlight.com. Have a wonderful week and see you on the radio.